Hey everyone, I want to do a lot more breakdowns of fantasy armors and assessing them for realism and giving my opinion on them. And if there's any other armors that you would like me to do a breakdown of, please leave them in the comments. And there's one armor that I've been wanting to do a review on for a really long time now. And that's Geralt of Rivia's Kaer set from The Witcher 3. It's the armor that he wears in all the promotional material for the game, and is the suit of armor we most associate with Geralt of Rivia. Overall, it is clearly meant to be a pure fantasy armor. Whenever I look at it, the overall aesthetic really reminds me of a Lorica Hamata, with those big rectangular shoulder defenses, like a Lorica Hamata. Whenever I see Geralt's armor, it really does look like an up-armored fantasy version of the Lorica Hamata, where they've added extra panels to the shoulder defenses to try and, to give a more fantasy silhouette, but also, have a up-armored version of Lorica Hamata's shoulders, which we do also see historically, well, at least in reconstructions. There's a thing called the Arlon Roman armor, where it's like a male shirt, but the shoulders appear to be plates, like from Lorica Segmentata, like they've just mashed the two together, and it gives a similar silhouette. Okay, so the amount of lames are different, the shape of the lames is different, but kinda does give that more like up-armored Lorica Hamata look that, honestly, they're not the same, but whenever I see Geralt's armor, it does kind of remind me of that. Now, some people speculate that these shoulder defenses are hardened leather with mail over the top of it. I don't know if it says that that's what they are in the game. I've never actually played the game. I listened to Let's Plays. But what I see when I look at that, my visual assessment, or the impression that gives me, is of some kind of quilted panel, so like layers of linen quilted together into a panel, and faced with mail, trimmed with leather. And the leather trim really reminds me of the kind of leather trim you get on things like Aventails, and of course on Lorica Hamata. So that's not too different to something like an Aventail with a liner underneath of it, so you'd probably expect it to give similar protection to that, except it's on your shoulder instead of around your neck. And it looks like they've just decided to extend that with extra panels going down the arm to give more shoulder protection and an upper arm defense. It's kind of weird. And honestly, the thing that irks me the most about it is those leather straps going across the body. And yes, I know, apparently gladiators did that when they were shirtless and had to have a pauldron, but it's done so much in fantasy, having your shoulder defenses held on by straps going across your body. I just hate it. It's like, yeah, I know it's meant... I know there may be a historical precedence for it in gladiators, but it's just cringe. Unless you're doing a gladiator look and you want that, and you're not wearing stuff underneath, like, just, whenever I see people attaching their shoulders by straps across their body, it just, I hate it. I just really hate it. I think it's cringe. It's, ugh. I mean, the way I would have attached those arms would have been, I would have pointed them either to the padded jack he's wearing underneath, or point them to the leather breastplate. Have some, have some little tie-on points. You tie it to the shoulder. That's how I would have done it, and it would have looked way better. But I guess they were going for the whole "we have lots of straps" look, which honestly I hate. I mean, yeah, plenty of people fight in LARP armor, and it seems to stay in place for them, allegedly. But honestly, I just don't like it. I don't care if it works. I just don't like it. And that brings us to the leather breastplate. I'm assuming it's a hardened leather breastplate. I have heard that there is some evidence to suggest that one of the early ways people tried to augment and enhance their male hauberks and male armor was to start adding pieces of hardened leather to it to try and protect areas like, you know, collarbones, and like there's some speculation that the original cuirasses were made of boiled leather. But, you know, that's not really an area I've done a lot of research in, because honestly I really do not care about boiled leather armor. Like, leather armor is cringe. I don't like it. It's like, why would I bother with leather when steel's an option? And, you know, it kind of does make sense. I mean, that would provide a bit of extra protection. Like, if you're wearing mail and you had a hardened leather breastplate on, if you got hit by something, it would spread the force out. So the fact that he's just got it over his ribs to help probably reduce the risk of him getting cracked ribs, you know, that's plausible. Okay, so another thing about that breastplate, it's really wide. It kind of looks like it goes almost all the way to the armpit. So yeah, I feel like that would really get into the range of motion and be yeah, I have issues with that. Although I don't know if it's meant to be soft leather or hardened leather, so I don't know how much it would give if you made it that wide. I would have not made it. I would have made the arm cutouts a lot bigger to improve range of motion. Although it does seem really strange that he'd still be going around with a hardened leather breastplate when so many other people have steel or at least iron armor. But then again, I think, now I'm not a huge lore guy for The Witcher. I like listened to the audio books, but they were, I think they might have just been really bad translations from Polish. You know, I think Geralt is meant to be like 200-ish years old by the time he adopts Ciri. So, like, the idea that he might be a bit technologically backwards, I could kind of see that happening, especially when I believe the guy who trained him, Vizimir, is like at the time of The Witcher 3 like over 1,000 years old. So I could totally see these guys having the mindset of, it's been good enough for the last 1,000 years, it's good enough now. You know, I could kind of see them having that kind of mindset, but it does really kind of stand out to me that their armor appears to be so technologically backwards compared to what a lot of other people in the setting are wearing. Doesn't mean it still wouldn't provide protection. If you turned up on a medieval battlefield wearing a Lorica segmentata, it would provide as much protection as a Lorica segmentata. It wouldn't suddenly stop working because it's out of date technologically speaking. Speaking of medieval technology, I really do like what appears to be the quilted or padded jacket that he's wearing underneath, just from looking at the exposed arms. I really do like that. It gives it more of a medieval aesthetic, and considering that he's a monster hunter, kind of reminds me of the training armor that they use to help train attack dogs. Although that stuff is way thicker than what Geralt is wearing. And that brings us to those van braces that are sticking out of the long gloves. They seem to have a ton of gap to them. Like, in some of the animations, his those band braces sticking out of the gloves appear to have up to maybe half an inch of gap between them and the arm. I can't see much shaping to them. They appear to be probably, again, hardened leather band braces. But the bit that really stands out to me is how loose they are. Like, what's to stop them sliding up the arm? If they're a tapered cylinder, which real band braces have a bit more shaping than that, but if they're so loose, whenever he has his arms up higher, what's to stop them sliding back down? And if they're hardened leather and they slide around the elbow, I could see that getting in the way, but just because they're so loose, I don't think they'd stay in place very well. The large gloves I do kind of like. Not sure if they're like falconry gloves, but you know, if you're dealing with things with claws, I could see having that long, thick leather glove making sense. And the leather band braces and quilting underneath would also help with, you know, something that latches onto your arm. But yeah, the fact that those band braces are just so loose kind of bugs me. And you can see in some of the animations that they're not attached to the gloves. If they were attached to the gloves, that would make more sense, because then the glove would stop it sliding back up the arm. But there's a little bit of animations where you can see that there's a gap between them. Moving across to the midsection, like, I want to comment on those strips of leather. Because they've got what appear to be little creases in it from bending, I'm gonna assume that they're not thick or hardened, and that they're just leather strips. They might be a little bit on the thick side. That put over the mail, having gaps in your mail to put a little bit of thin leather makes no sense. So I'm assuming that those are strips of leather over the mail, and it does kind of look like they've attached it over the mail. Honestly, I'm gonna just have to chalk that one up to aesthetics, trying to make him look more slender. I honestly have no plausible explanation for that, other than maybe they thought that having a little bit of extra leather on the sides to help distribute force if you're hitting the sides would be worth it. But again, because it's got those creases on it from bending, it's going to be a lot thinner, which makes sense, because honestly, if you started putting thick hardened leather on the sides of you, I feel like that would, you know, you could bend with a bit of leather on there, it might help. It just seems weird more than anything. Right, now that brings us to the hose, the tied-on leggings. They're not a bad choice for really light armor. They appear to just be quilted leggings. You know, the hose. You can even see the little tie-on points, which is a nice detail that I like. So think of them like chaps, like quilted chaps. But I can only see them down to the knee, where it appears to be some kind of leather knee wrap, or it could be some kind of extra textile knee wrap. I don't know what's going on there. The knees being separate, or probably possibly integrated. If I was being generous, I'd say that's just, you know, maybe a bit more hard-wearing material for if he needs to kneel down to look at something. And, you know, the high leather riding boots, you know, that's not a bad option. I mean, it would seem a little odd him wearing greaves after all of that. So, overall, the design isn't horribly broken, but there are some bits like the breastplate being so wide that it would probably interfere with your range of motion, and the fan braces being so loose that they'd move around and slide up your arm and get in the way. It's nothing too horrifically broken, although, you know, I don't like those shoulders. They probably would work as a way of putting mail over the shoulders. It's not how I would do it, and I personally just really do not like attaching them with straps. I think it looks dumb and hideous, but I guess they were going for the whole we want lots of straps because fantasy. So, you know, other than like improving a bit of the fit, first thing I'd add is a helmet and then get a shield. He's a witcher, so this armor is meant to be designed to fight monsters more than humans. So, yeah. Overall, I don't like it because I'm really biased towards historical accuracy, but honestly, there's worse out there. Alright, if there's any other armors you would like me to analyze, please let me know. Alright, everyone. See you.